Hey, what's up? This is Kevin from Kevin's Barbecue Joints, and this one is awesome. It's with Mark Champion from Flint Field, Texas. You might know him as Mark Champion, the photographer who I interviewed about 9 months ago, and that's all that I had known. I learned about his history, and I'll put a link to that interview below. But a lot has changed, so I reached out to him because I thought that this would be interesting for people to see because in 9 months shows how much you can evolve and quote unquote pivot and essentially follow your dreams and follow your passions because this had all been brewing underneath. He was working in the gas and oil business. COVID hit, things changed. He was furloughed for a bit, but he always had this creative side. And he worked on other things before, like Ninth Inning, but this was always percolating. And now he has the opportunity to shine with Flint Field, Texas. And he goes into what that is. It's a creative agency, but it's so much more. So he goes into depth as to what that is, his connection to baseball and to barbecue. And baseball, I get into it a little deeper too because there's this whole thing about Sandlot baseball that I knew nothing about. And it's so intriguing. It's interesting that there's all these little subcultures around that you could be excited about and into, and no one else has any idea is going on. So we talk about Sandlot baseball, and I'll put links to all this stuff below that we discussed. So that way, if you're interested in checking out, and if you're not in Texas or you're not somewhere, that you can maybe learn and see if there's a Sandlot baseball team or obviously teams in your area. So that's fun and it's great, and I'm really excited for Mark. And if you're a barbecue joint or a restaurant or have a brand or you want to put on an event, there's a lot of components within this interview that might be of interest. So thanks, Mark, for taking the time to share your new endeavor. I know it's going to be awesome. And if you're enjoying these, please subscribe. Also hit the bell notification. That way you don't miss out. I do a couple of these per week. I have a website at kevinsbbqjoints.com, at kevinsbbqjoints on all the social media. But at the end, stay safe and be sure to visit your local barbecue joint. Good morning. It's been about 9 months since I talked to Mark Champion, and it seems like the world's a little different in general, and the world's different for you too. Gosh, like there's so much going on, and I was taking some notes, but I just noticed that there's a lot. So let's just jump in. So what's your headspace right now, and let's jump into what you got going on. I want to share because it's exciting and it feels a lot. I know how creative you are mentally, and you like to be inspired. So what's up? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's Friday here in Houston, and spring break is upon us. Not that that means anything to me. I don't have any days off or anything, but
What's
it's
spring
going
break?
good. I think, yeah, exactly. I think since last time we spoke, I think it was last April or May. Yeah, a lot has changed. I left my career in oil and gas back in August of last year through an event out in Austin, and got a lot of wheels turning from there. But I pretty much formed my own creative agency called Flint Field Tx, and we basically specialize in creative content development, brand advising, and event management. I feel like we do so much more too because there's so much gray area there.
Yeah,
We'll dabble in the marketing side. We'll dabble in the commerce side, stuff like that.
it's Flint Field. And Flint Field, is there a meaning behind that name?
Right. So when you think of Flint, right, you think of something that starts to spark, starts to fire. Really, more so Flint can be anything, whether it's you're using some twigs from the yard or just some scratch you found out in the woods or whatever it is. Flint is Flint. So really, we act as the Flint for a company. Let us create the spark in the story you're trying to tell so much. So it's got it's got some real gumption behind it. But I started it back officially in October and never said anything. I just ran with it and wanted to see what I could do for 3 months, and it pretty much took over everything. Formally announced it this past week, and it sprung from there. It was like I was starting a whole brand new company from scratch, like that day.
Yeah.
It just felt really cool to kind of formally like talk about it and let people know what I had going on officially because I didn't really at first I didn't want to really start anything officially as far as an entity went. My wife was like, "Well, you can't really sell Mark Champion forever. What if you get bought out here in like 5 or 6 years? People are gonna buy your name." And I'm like, "Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that
I can't
is.
sell my I can't sell my name." So I thought about it, and Flint Field. It's kind of got some homage to like baseball. It's got homage to fire and barbecue. So it's kind of a melting pot for those two worlds to come together. While those are like my two, big things I focused on, I feel like most of the time it's everything else also thrown in there, whether it's hotel work, whether it's just stuff around here,
Specific
different
all
companies.
types of brands and products
Yeah,
and
yeah, for sure. So I never tell anybody no. I hardly pass up work. If I do pass up work, it's because I have something scheduled at the same time. But um, It's been fun. It's definitely a learning process. I definitely don't have all the answers, but I could tell you that, learn from your mistakes and stuff like that. But I'm traveling a lot. I'm on the road at least, gosh, half the week sometimes. I'll be gone for 3 or 4 days, come back, edit some stuff, be gone for another week or two, come back. I was just in Westico a couple of days ago, and I was gonna sleep in Westico, sleep out there, but I ended up just driving back to Houston like a maniac.
How far away is
Um,
that from you?
it's about 5.5 hours.
Okay.
So I drove down there in the morning, and I just drove straight back at night. Stopped to see some friends in Corpus, and I said, I'm just gonna drive back home. They're like, Are you serious? I'm like, Yeah, it's fine.
But
Podcast
driving,
some
like
black.
certain people, like I'm a driver. Some people like to drive. Like that's not a issue. Some people like a 2 hour drive. It's like I got it. There's no way I can do it.
Yeah, I'm used to it by now. A trip out to Austin and back is nothing for me, but push it to the limit of going to like the Valley from like Houston is pretty wild. But yeah, I'm the same way. I kind of find that therapeutic moment in
Yeah.
my pickup truck and able to zone out, listen to some cool podcasts, and drink my black coffee and all that good stuff. So
So
yeah, it's been
what
going
was
good.
the
It's
spark? What made you decide I'm comfortable to leave your job in oil and gas?
Yeah. So I sat at the house during when COVID broke out in 2020. I had been furloughed for about 3 months. And my previous career, I was a sort of an on-site supervisor for
Mhm.
about 15 or 16 inspectors. So all of my guys were furloughed. We're all sitting at home. None of us knew what to do. At that moment, I think that summer we had my wife and I kind of had an epiphany. We kind of came to terms with like, okay, like we don't want to be in the position where somebody else is dictating whether we're going to work or not.
Smart.
So I took that with a grain of salt and I said, okay, let me give myself a 2 year window. Within 2 years, I'm going to leave oil and gas. I'm going to walk away. I had been in it for 13 years.
Yeah.
And my creative hustle was always that. It was a side hustle. It was always something that I did on the side, whether it was ninth inning, whether it was events or stuff like that. So went back to work that summer, June of that year. And then I put in a solid year and a half. And we had went to go see a guy by the name of Benjamin Todd. He's like a kind of folk honky tonk singer.
Okay.
We went and saw him here in Houston on a Thursday night, and I was having a good time. It was a pretty fun event. And the last song he had said something before he had sang it, and he said, "Hey, if you're waiting for that moment to come when you're ready to make that next move in your life, don't wait anymore." And I'm just like looking at my wife Bianca. I'm like, that's it. And
It's an epiphany. Yeah.
yeah, and I went in the next day and I was gonna put in my 2 weeks and I was gonna, formally tell my site supervisor. I was gonna tell like my company, hey, like this is my 2 weeks. But I was leaving the industry and I was walking away from that line of work forever. And I knew if I didn't kind of like burn up that safety net, I would always want to fall back on it. So went in the next morning in a good mood, and it was like one of those things where I hate to use the term, but like everybody kind of like shits on you. Like when things roll downhill, everything kind of like
It
falls
was.
on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, I've been there. Yeah.
that day, everybody just came at me in my office like it was my fault for something going wrong, and I just like sat back and I laughed. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like I've already made
It
the
was like a
decision in my
message
head.
from the
It was a
universe.
message
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
grab,
Yeah.
right, like grab my stuff and leave. So I called my wife. I'm like, hey, like today's the day. And she kind of like giggled and she goes, okay, let's do it.
I see
And
you have that support too.
if it wasn't for her and really, giving me that green light, I definitely couldn't have done it without her. So I went home that weekend, and we all kind of had like a powwow and called my dad, told my dad about it. I think I saw him actually over lunch and told him about it. And he was like, that's good. I'm really proud of you. This is something you should be doing. My mom was super stoked for me too. So came back to work that Monday morning, turned in my, not even a 2 week notice. It was just like, hey, here's a formal document stating my resignation. Shook everybody's hands, did the whole thing, told my guys, hey, like, I'll see y'all later. I'm not, don't be a stranger. So that was mid-August, and it's been a complete 180 from that life, leaving that sort of work in the past, and turning over a new leaf really, and focusing more on what I wanted to do creatively has been an absolute, I mean, dream.
But how did
My
you
wife
figure out?
constantly.
I guess you're still kind of figuring out. How did you at that moment know what you were going to do creatively? I know. And what was that? What was that first event? I remember. I remember
So we did throw
promoting it and stuff, but
yeah,
that seems
we did
like a
Throne
lifetime
Smoke.
ago.
Yeah, oh yeah. We did Throne Smoke September 4th of last year at the long time. And that was my vision of a Texas kind of like love letter from me to Texas. It was baseball, it was barbecue, it was good beer, it was good bourbon, it was good music, good times, friends coming together. It was actually during hurricane season, and the entire month of August up until September 4th, I was like biting my nails, like, oh my, because I've lived through a hurricane. Like this house, like you're seeing me in right now, like we've gone through that hurricane here, so I know what it's like. And I really just did not want anything to go wrong. I was like, oh my God, please don't rain, please don't storm. So the event was on a Saturday. That Monday and Tuesday it rained. It's butt off in Austin, and I'm just like, this is bad. This is not going
Yeah.
to be good. The ground's going to be wet. But sure enough, it dried up over time. The day of the event ended up being super hot, and which is cool. I mean, people found shade and cold beer, so they were
Yeah.
cool. We did that in Austin. After that, I pretty much knew, okay, like this, I got to form something officially. I got to pretty much like brand myself in accordance with what I want to do in the future as a formal company and a formal entity, because I can't sell Mark Champion forever. That's not really my goal here.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to like sort of separate myself from my business to where it's on its own thing. It's on its own sort of like cloud as opposed to what I was doing personally. And there's only so much you can do and sell your name as far as you can go.
Yeah.
But Flint Field was created a month later, and I took it from there, created the LLC, did all the legalities for it, and it's been rolling since. I never said anything for 4 or 5 months. I wanted to build it up, and like my clients were getting invoices, and they're like, Flint
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Field. So like, hey Mark, is this you? And I'm like, yeah, just don't say anything yet.
Yeah. No, but that's
So
also smart. Like a lot of people do things like even everything to like even something that we both like is like Star Wars. Like they do you create
yeah,
sub companies and sub things because it makes sense to not
yeah.
run under your specific name. And there are people though that try, but it'll always be Mark Champion doing this. But yeah,
Right. Yeah. And I think the two kind of like still hold a strong connection, my name and the brand. So
yeah,
I'm really not that far from it. At the end of the day, I'm super blessed and excited to be in this position and waking up every day. And whether I'm in the office or I'm out somewhere shooting a pitmaster or a company or whatever it is, I'm having fun and I'm expressing myself creatively every day. And ultimately, that's what I wanted. I wanted that outlet where I can tap into and really just give it my all, because being stuck in a 6 to 3 p.m. job in oil and gas, I couldn't do much. I was
yeah.
supervising a group of guys, but at the same time, I burnt out and I was done. So yeah,
Well, and for people that might not know or haven't seen the first, I'll put a link below to our first interview. Your camera and photography is a big portion of what you do too. It's a big passion of yours. So a lot of what you're doing now revolves around photography too, right?
yeah.
And,
So
and video.
I would, yeah, yeah, both those things. I would definitely categorize it like I'm a Swiss Army knife, and photo and video photography, that's really one of the many tools I can pull out of that knife.
Yeah.
So I would say some days, some weeks, I should basically put it like this. Some weeks I'm more of a photographer. Some weeks I'm more of an event manager. Some weeks I'm more of a brand advisor. So
Can you explain that a
I
little bit more detail?
right. So there's companies out there that, whether, they're a brick and mortar, 18-year business, they're fully developed, or they're like in, year one, Q1, where they really need some help when it comes to building a program to excel, whether it's, reaching new clients or really more so trying to lay out their fiscal year to where they're completely dialed in and they know what they're doing. I offer strategy and programming, which is real big for a lot of people, and kind of helping brands build that criteria of, hey, like, how do I operate as far as going about, social media campaigns, or how can I reach out to this person, or how can we do more events in this sort of area of time in Texas, and really helping brands storytell, but also through helping them on that side of it. And also
And
product communication is big too. A lot of companies forget about product communication, and that's where I come in, try to
yeah,
help them
no,
out as much as possible.
both you and I know that there's a lot of great companies and there's a lot of great restaurants out there that just you just don't know quite what they're doing on a day-to-day basis or week to week. Like you kind of, they get lost, and they also, they have their head down working and trying to be consistent,
Exactly.
and it's not. Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of these companies are, I would say they're not too busy, but they're just more focused on the actual product they're putting out.
Mhm.
And they don't have the time or the energy or the creativity, I would say sometimes, to go and update their web or their
Yeah.
social. And that's where Flint Field comes in. We kind of take that off their hands, and we do it for them. So
You know
yeah,
what's funny is like, because I'm working on a project, a side project that I can tell you off air, but but I've noticed that a lot of barbecue spots don't have good photography. This is across the United States, like good photography, or even in their social media, like their Instagram. There's not even a photo. There's not even a photo of their food, or there's maybe three, and they're really bad. There's no, there. It's mostly like graphics or different weird things, or things for like
yeah,
Valentine's Day, and that's like a lot of times, like you or me or somebody else, like when the first time you're looking to go somewhere, you're looking at their Instagram saying, or what does their food look like? Oh god, that looks really freaking good, I want to go there.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's
yeah,
strange, but it's
yeah.
not their
I think
fault
you're selling
necessarily. It's just
right. And I think nowadays consumers are looking at visually. If it's not appealing to them, they're not going to spend money with you, whether it's food or a product. And I think the first channel they're going to hit is going to be Instagram. I'm like that. If I go somewhere, we're
yeah,
out of town and we see a restaurant, hey, what are they about? Let's just search them on Instagram. Boom. If your grid is nice and attractive,
yeah.
most likely we're going to go and spend money with you. So
You
I
might
think a lot
also
of
think they're shut down too. Like you might think, well, they're
exactly. Yeah, you look at it, you're like, oh, their last post was, the summer 2021. Oh, they're
yeah.
definitely not open.
Uh-huh. I've seen
Yeah,
places
I'm
that
right
like
there with you.
2000, like 2018. I'm like, and I know
Yeah,
they're open for sure, but I just like, what is going on?
yeah,
Yeah, and that.
yeah.
So now so are you going to be doing a certain amount of events every year, or is that kind of, how is that? Yeah.
So right now, we offer our services to companies that want to bring activations, whether it's big or small, to market and help plan them out. And we act as that third party that we can basically help you from creative concept all the way to day of execution, whether it's supplying a workforce to help you manage this event, whether it's helping you book artists, whether it's helping you book chefs, cooks, pitmasters, and stuff like that. We're pretty much a turnkey operation where we can give our services to a brand, a company, and act as that completely complete on its own to
Wow.
help and navigate. Really, that's really a
So
lot
that's
of companies
so
have
if I'm
trouble with.
interested in putting on an event, that's also something that people can come to you for, that assistance,
Correct,
because that's not
correct. Now,
an
yeah,
easy
yeah.
endeavor
Like right
always.
now, we have an yeah, right now we have an event we're doing for Lone Star called Crawdaddy Club here in Houston next month. It's one of, I can't really say too much, but it's one of a couple more events we're doing together
Okay.
throughout Texas. We've got a couple more coming up this year, so this is just the first one. And then there's a couple other companies right now that we're in talks with doing more events with probably here in the summertime. But Flint Field itself, Throne Smoke is um, our main big thing we're doing later in the fall. Right now, I
So
don't
this
think I
fall
have the
there will be
capacity
another
or
Throw and Smoke event.
right, yeah, yeah. Throne Smoke's coming back this coming October.
Okay.
Um, as much as I want to put my name on more, event stamp like set my name on more events when it comes to throwing smoke sort of things. I don't have the capacity right now, the actual like schedule wise to
Yeah.
say, okay, this is going to be another event for the spring. I'd rather just do events for customers and clients,
Okay.
and then focus on our one event in the fall.
Didn't you also have something in Texas Monthly featuring the last time we did this? Is the last time we talked, didn't you?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it just popped in my head when you said Lone Star. I was just thinking about like that.
Yeah, I did some work with Coca-Cola last year, and my buddy Greg over there, I called me up one day. And this is back in I think August or September after Throwing Smoke, and he said, "Hey, Coca-Cola is going to be a big sponsor of Texas Monthly, and the issue coming out, the barbecue issue." He said, "I need a vertical shot of some brisket in our new Coke Zero bottle because the new Coke Zero rebrand had just came out." So he said, "Hey, can you take care of that for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. What's it going?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a full page ad in Texas Monthly." And I'm like,
Yeah, what?
"Okay, cool. That's perfect."
Mhm.
So I I kind of went a little psycho for a little bit. I like ran to HEB. I grabbed a Packer brisket. I came home, I threw it on the smoker, I cooked it, and I was trying my hardest to really make it, 100% me and 100%, my brisket, my photo, and the brisket ended up coming out terrible. I wasn't paying attention, and I cut it the wrong way. I had my whole kitchen set up like a photo shoot. I had lights everywhere. I had dimmers in the corner. I had the whole work set up, and I had just screwed up this brisket because I rushed it. I wasn't paying attention, and I just sat back and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I can't do both. So that Friday, I was actually going down to do a shoot for Butters Barbecue down in Mathis. So I called up Andrew and I'm like, hey, I'll see you Friday around 12. He said, all right, cool. I got there and I pulled up. I said, hey, I need 3 of your best slices of brisket you've ever cut in your life. He said, what's up? I said, I'm gonna take a picture for Texas Monthly, and his eyes like got real big. He's like, oh, okay, and he believed me. Like he didn't question at all. He knew I was serious. So we shot it there. He had just got his brand new offset smoker from Syntex. We shot it there in the firebox. It was a really pretty day. Put the Coke Zero product next to his brisket, and then a couple months later, we saw the full page ad.
I'll put a
Not
link
only did
below to that.
Yeah, not only did Andrew get a top 50 shout out, his brisket was featured in a Coke Zero, ad full page in Texas Monthly. So that's pretty cool
Huge.
too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah, that was
you've always been a proponent of him and his barbecue, and Andrew's
yeah,
a great guy, and his food looks just ridiculous, ridiculous.
yeah. He's a good friend. He's a super cool guy.
Yeah,
Like I said in the previous episode, I grew up eating his dad's food, and now I'm eating his
yeah.
food, and now I'm bringing my daughter to his establishment. So like now, it's kind of like a cool
Yeah.
full circle thing how that works. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. So the tie-in? Are you then? I'm confused though. There's some baseball. Are there baseball events? Are you creating a baseball league, or what the hell is going on?
so
That's why I
so
couldn't
in
get my
20
head around,
yeah,
because you have so much going on. I'm like, wow, he must not sleep.
yeah. So back in 2017, we had just got flooded out by Hurricane Harvey, and we were kind of in the mud with our spirits, and we didn't really know how to move forward, and we were in the completely real we were in a rebuild phase of our house, but just the morale around here was just kind of like, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
Um, at that same time, I had received a message on Instagram from my buddy Reagan. He said, hey, I know you're a baseball fan. Would you ever want to play, Sandlot baseball? And I said, what's Sandlot baseball? Sure. So I met up with him. We had coffee, and he said, hey, like I'm starting a team called the Houston Gamblers. You're pretty much exactly who we're needing. Would you want to play with us? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I said, where do we play at? He said, there's this field in Austin, sort of in the Weberville area called the Long Time. This guy Jack built. And I'm like, okay, like whatever, like I'll go play. So I got my uniform. We go out there, and I'll never forget it. I wrote a blog about it on Ninth Innings website. My first experience at the Long Time was just a complete just I was in heaven. It's this guy's property. It's more than just a baseball field. It serves as a creative landscape for anything, and I mean that in the full regard. Like you can pretty much do anything you want out there creatively, and there just so happens to be a baseball field. So we go out there, we play, and I fall in love with it. That was 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, and I've been going back ever since. Played with the Gamblers up until last summer, and then I left respectively. I would say probably back in July to start my own team, because for the last couple of years I had a lot of friends. Hey, Mark, how do I play? How do I get down with you guys?
Okay.
How do I have fun like this? So, and I couldn't really say, oh yeah, come join the Gamblers, because it wasn't my team to say that. So I always knew, probably for the last year or so, like, hey, like clock's ticking, like my time as a Gambler is going to come to an end here pretty soon. So the Texas Oil Dogs was formed, I would say late last summer, and Throwing Smoke was our first game. We played 4 games last year, and it's basically made up of a bunch of friends of mine from Corpus, from San Antonio, a lot from Houston, and we come together and we play Sandlot ball. And yeah, it's a
How
great
is
time.
Sandlot ball different than if you were in another kind of league? It's obviously it's not softball,
So
that's for
yeah, there's a few key rules that we stick to. If you play D1 college ball, you really can't play, because the last thing we want is someone to get up there and they're smoking 85 to home plate off the mound, and you're just sitting there. You don't want to get anyone to get hurt either. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
There's that factor.
yeah, there's that factor. As far as rules go, the long time has a big rule. If you hit a home run, your next at bat has to be from the opposite side of the plate. If you hit a home run from
Ah,
there, I think you use a certain like large bat. Um, yeah, it's pretty cool, but it's more so for men and women to come out, have a good time. There's guys who go play who try to live out their glory years. Like nobody's a stud. No one's out there getting a contract for the Texas Rangers. Like nobody's. It's more so a time for us to go out there, give it our all, have a good time. At the end of the game, we're shaking hands and taking photos with the other team. You know, um,
so
usually
is this something
we'll
that
give.
all these like that? Because I don't have a lot of friends that are doing this in California. Is this something where there's a lot of leagues in Texas, and then
Yeah,
there's you guys have your own
yes,
specific uniforms? And
yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm
man.
so
Believe
naive
it or
about it,
not,
but yeah, I love baseball.
believe it or not, it's yeah. Believe it or not, it's actually big in California right now. There's this comedian Rhea Butcher. She runs a team called the Los Angeles Death. I want to say it's like the LA Death or the Santa Monica Death, and they're a Sandlot team. They play out there too, and there's quite a few teams to go
I need to
catch. I
do some
mean,
research. Okay.
yeah, you should check it out. But Sandlot Ball itself and this whole like community, it's huge. It's in California, it's in Canada,
Okay.
it's all across the country. There's teams in Tulsa, there's teams in Minnesota. Nashville's got a really big scene right now. There's the Carolinas. I don't think there's really any in the Pacific Northwest, but Texas right now, Austin's a huge market right now for Sandlot baseball, and I'm really trying my hardest to push Houston to be up there when it comes to regards of like an Austin baseball scene. Houston, we've got about 4 or 5 teams that are somewhat active. You've got the Gamblers, you've got the Houston Sugar, you've got the West Houston Derricks, yeah, Texas Oil Dogs, the Houston Buffs.
Wow.
So
How often do you guys play?
it's so last year we played 4 games in a matter of 4.5 months. Actually, 5 games. We played two in Marfa. Um, this coming year, I think we've got 16 games throughout the course of
Okay.
I think April to December. We're gonna play about 16 games. Some in Houston, some in Austin, a few in Dallas, a few in San Antonio, and then the really cool ones are when we can go to these sort of bigger markets like a Marfa, and we go out there with like 8 teams. So 8 teams will play a tournament in Marfa over the course of 3 days.
Okay.
Um, we're going to Tulsa, I think in May. We're going to Tulsa with like 4 of the teams, and we're going to go barnstorm and play the Tulsa teams over the course of two
Who
days.
runs
Come back home,
this? Is this run by a league, or is it run like it's just this is,
man.
I'm sorry, this is like so off
Yeah,
topic, but it's not because
no,
there's
no,
probably people
it's
going,
super.
I
So
want to be part of this or check them out or come.
yeah, it's very punk rock. It's very there's nothing. There's no formal board. There's no formal person that's really running it all. It's more so like, hey, it's very shotgun, But while it is shotgun, it's very punk rock in the sense like we do it DIY. We have the help of like our sponsors. Like our sponsors this year are Nomad Grills from Dallas, which I'm sure you're familiar with Nomad,
Yeah.
and then also, the greatest beer in the world, Lone Star Beer. They're our continuing sponsor. Um,
Oh, that's
but
cool.
to answer your question, who runs it? No one runs it. There's a couple of guys in Austin, Daniel Northcutt, who plays on the Lockhart Hawks, and Howard Carey, who's the catcher for the Playboys. Both are really good friends of mine, super great guys. They run an entity called Sandlot Revolution, and what that is Sandlot Revolution. They pretty much try to formally bring everything together as far as what happens at the long time and organize. They're basically an organization that organizes because there are a lot of teams in Texas. There's probably close to 40 teams right now active
Yeah.
from all over. So
So is it something like if someone follows your
yeah,
social media, they'll see stuff and then they can come out and then it kind of you become part of you talk and
right, yeah, for sure. And we most of the games we don't charge for entry. It's just come out, have a good time. If it's a large scale event like a Throw and Smoke, then yeah, there's going to
yeah.
be charge. But it's really just bring your cooler, bring your lawn chair. You're going to see some good baseball. You're going to see some really fun things happening. if you go out to the long time, chances are you're going to hear somebody play on the stage. Chances are you're going to, be able to get some good drinks and good food from a vendor they have there. So,
Wow,
um,
it's an interesting thing. It's just
yeah, it's
a subculture that a lot of people probably don't know about.
yeah, and so like I was able to take that in my space there and if with barbecue and bring it together, and that's sort of where Throwing Smoke came from. Is the community in baseball and Sandlot baseball more specifically, because there is a big difference between Major League Baseball and Sandlot baseball, and not just how we play it, but also the ethos behind it. And more, everybody asks me, "Y'all get paid to play?" And I'm like, "I wish." Like, you kidding me? But there's a strong, very wholesome Texan mindset when it comes to the people that come out to these games, and it's also a 180 turnkey thing where the same mindset is there in Texas barbecue, and it's these two communities where I thought
Yeah.
like, hey, why can't we come together? Why can't the person who's a fan of Sandlot baseball be a fan of Reese Brothers barbecue, and
Hmm.
vice versa? And if there's ever an opportunity to do baseball and barbecue together, I'm the first person to throw my hat in the mix.
Yeah, and if we've learned anything from the pandemic, it's that you should get together and like kinship and fellowship and doing things and slowing down and going back to the basics. And baseball is such a part of Americana. It's such a part of us. And even if you haven't been a part of baseball that much, it's going to a baseball game changes your mindset while you're there. It's like if you go to a Dodger game,
Yeah,
of course you're gonna drop a lot of money on beer. You're gonna drop a lot of money on whatever. But it's
Dodger
a
dogs. Yeah,
it's yeah. But it's like when people. That's why I would love to. And every guy probably that likes baseball said like I want to go to every single stadium across the United States. It's something. I have a good friend in Seattle who we've talked about this. Is it's so when you there's it's like experiential and I played some baseball when I was younger. I never played it in college or I was only in the pros for like 4 or 5 years, and then no, I'm joking. But it's there's something special. And so Sandlot, like in I think some of the first photos that got me interested in knowing who the heck Mark Champion was were photos that you took. I'm sure at the place in Austin because it was like those bats, like the end of the bat.
yeah,
There's some
yeah.
gorgeous photos. Again, you're a great photographer, but it was just some special photos that I thought, those hit me in a certain way that we're special. And then now we've had
Yeah,
friendship from then. But
I I owe a lot to the barbecue community. I've been able and fortunate to be in a lot of cool pit rooms, and be able to shoot a lot of really great portraits around barbecue. And then the same token goes for Sandlot baseball. I was able to shoot Field of Dreams last year in Iowa.
I
We had a Sandlot turn.
forgot about that. Yeah.
We had a Sandlot tournament out there with Pillbox Batco. They're from Minnesota. They make some absolutely beautiful bats. We went out there to do a barnstorm one week, and
Yeah, how was that?
it was about 4 teams. It was great. I think day one, or I think it was day one. At the end of day one, we were under a tornado watch. Like all of a sudden the skies got black, and we all had to go down like to the cellar, and like
Oh
we were
wow.
all just like huddled around, and it was pretty wild. My buddy Tucker from the Cobras and we're there, and he had his family there. We're like looking out the window, and tornadoes everywhere, and luckily nobody was hurt, but a tornado did touch down a couple of miles away, and we ended up playing baseball after that, and
Was
just
it was
being
that that
there.
was
And
what that was around the anniversary, right? Wasn't that or was that like a
I
few months after? Because it wasn't that last year. I'm trying to think of when that
Yeah, it was
big.
last. When did I go out and do that? Early, I think it was late August. I just left inspection, and I flown out there with Pillbox. Yeah, I think it was after the anniversary. I think it was about a week or two after, and we had a great crowd. It was like a Monday to Wednesday thing, and we had a great crowd on hand watching us play ball. I was able to play with the Hog Line, which is Pillbox's team. So I left there, you know, and I said to myself, "Wow, I got to shoot at Field of Dreams. I got to play baseball at Field of Dreams. That was insane."
What
So
was it like?
uh,
What was it beautiful?
it was very, very beautiful. Compared to a lot of Sandlot fields we play out here, it was like playing in the majors, because there it's very manicured, it's very well kept.
Yeah.
There's no fence; it's just outfield, cornfield. So um, I shot some of the most beautiful photos out there. I just raw off the camera. I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, that's incredible. But it's a dream. There's really nothing around Dryersville. It's just more so like fields and fields and small communities, and then you get to this place, Field of Dreams, and it just opens up, and you're like, wow, there's the house. There's like this really cool barn area, and then you look to the left, and it's this field. And I think everyone that was there at that time from Texas, we were in awe because, you know, the long time is this oasis that's very like, done a certain creative way, and then you get to feel like the Field of Dreams. It's just like, whoa, like this is like a very, very well polished Sandlot field, almost too pretty to play on.
Yeah.
There's no pothole. There's no potholes or loose gravel. It's just very like it was beautiful, man. I can't explain it even more. I mean, if you ever get
No,
a chance to go
that's
out
amazing.
there,
I want to. It's
yeah,
on my list. So is that something that, like, if I went out there right now, do they charge to go out there? Is that a thing? Is it like an event space almost?
they
Or
no, they don't. It's an event space. It just got bought out. Frank Thomas and a couple other
Frank
investors.
Thomas? Nice.
Yeah.
The
Frank
Big
Thomas
Hurt.
bought it last year. The Big Hurt, that's right. So
Uh,
Frank Thomas and a couple other investors bought it last year, and it's under new management, and I think they're going to try to do way more events than they have in the past. So I'm excited to get back out there and play again.
if
So
you said like something like Frank Thomas and Ken Griffey and Ichiro, like it would be like all by like. Wow, that's cool. That's really, really. I forgot all, like, it's amazing how much stuff has happened. It's been like, not maybe 10 months or something, or 11. It's amazing. Your life has shifted so much. Could you talk a little bit before we finish this up about some of the clients that you've worked for recently, just so that you know name dropping is like, it's silly, but it's also something that people
yeah.
like in their heads like, oh, Mark did that, or like, or Flint Field did,
Um,
or things
So
you want
Flint Field's had the opportunity to work with a lot of fun people in the past 4 months. Takovas was a fun one. We did some stuff with Takovas and Reese Brothers and Brick Vault out in Marathon. We did some really cool content with them. Zilker Belts from Austin, they're always fun. Epic Western, they're an RTD brand from Austin. They do
to.
canned ranch waters. Nine Banded Whiskey, we've worked with them quite a bit. They're from Austin also.
Did you shoot time?
I did. My buddy Chance Morgan over at Morgan Mercantile in Fort Worth did some new merch for Heim Barbecue, and
Oh, that's what
Chance
it was.
knows I'm in that space. Yeah, Chance knows I'm in that space. So he called me up one day. I was already there shooting for Hotel Dries, and we shot for Heim, and it came out really, really great. That was a fun one. So many pit house smokehouses around Texas. I've lost track. Gosh, Hotel Turkey out in Turkey, Texas. They're doing barbecue now, and it's exceptional. Shot them back in December. Liberty and Justice, they're a local street punk band here in Houston. I shot them in January. A lot of stuff for Syntech Smokers with Michael. That's been some great stuff too. Yeah, also Lone Star Beer. I've been working with them closely for the past 3 months, and we've got some really cool stuff under our belt. We've got
Nice.
a lot more to do, and they're probably my funnest client I've been able to work with. And I don't say that just because they're a sponsor of the Oil Dogs. They're really fun. They give me a lot of creative freedom to operate, and I've got a partner in San Antonio who Garrett Holes design. I've known him probably for the last 15 years of my life, and he's my graphic design partner. And we're able to help out a lot of clients when it comes to creating an image and bringing that to life. We're doing a lot of fun stuff with Lone Star right now.
So if someone's interested in working with you, what are the best ways to get a hold of you? And is there like no project too small, that kind of thing? Like, is it like you like to?
For sure, the most easiest access to me and Flintfield is just shoot me an email, mc@flintfieldtx.com. Definitely don't message me on Instagram because I'm going to forget it. A lot of people would do that. Like, hey, can I get some photos? I'm like, man, just shoot me an email. Like,
Yeah, it's
I can't keep up with IG messages. I'm not on Instagram that much, so I really can't give
they
them my
get
all.
buried
But
pretty quick.
hey, they get buried quickly, and you forget about it. Once you read it, you really can't go back. So an email is always the easiest
Okay, I'll
way
put
to
a link to
reach
that.
me. Definitely no project too small. I just shot some photos last weekend. It was a high school graduation photo, and
Oh,
although it wasn't baseball at barbecue, it was still it was still a fun gig. I shot a friend of ours, her daughter's graduating high school, and I shot her photos, and they came out really well, and they loved it. So just because it's not baseball barbecue related, by all means, like don't feel you
and
can't,
you
we
did
can't work
weddings
together.
and stuff too before, right? You do
I
weddings?
did some weddings last year. Yeah, if you want to talk about all the stuff that's not baseball or barbecue, I did
Well,
some
just
weddings
because I
last
want to promote,
year.
I'm a fan
Yeah,
of you as a person, and I want people to know, like, hey,
yeah,
I'm listening to this. Oh, but my friend has a wedding coming up, and Mark shoots
right.
mad
I
photos.
shoot
Like, yeah.
I shoot weddings, but I'm definitely not, I would definitely give them like Ben Sassani's info because Ben Sassani's like the greatest wedding photographer ever.
Well, that's
Wedding
yeah, of
photographer.
course, yeah.
Um, but I had to tell like the bride and groom last year, like when I shot their wedding, the first one, I said, "Hey, I'm not traditional, which this is how I shoot." And they're
Yeah,
like, "That's what we want. We want like your style." I'm like, "Okay, let's go." Weddings for sure, graduations, parties, whatever you want to call it.
yeah, yeah.
A buddy of mine, Jake Frost, owns he owns a construction company, Integrity Custom Builders. I went and he built this monstrosity of a house out in North Houston, and I went and ran my drone. I did some really cool video work with
Oh,
him
cool. So you have a
during the
drone too,
actual
so that's
build.
something. Not
Yeah,
everyone
I
has a
do a lot
drone.
of drone work too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I did a lot of drone work for him when it came to like when the house is being built. We were able to run the drone through all
Oh,
the
cool.
house itself, and that was really cool to see that process. But yeah, I do everything outside of baseball and barbecue, and just because if you're not slinging ribs or if you're not hitting home runs, doesn't mean I can't work with you. So,
Yeah.
um, shoot me an email. Let's talk and let's get something going.
Yeah. Well, it's funny as I saw a photo, and I don't know how staged it was, but it was like some wedding photographer and said like these are the problems with being a photographer these days. And it was like I don't know if you saw it. It was like someone it was from the back like shooting the couple, and you could see the crowd, and the audience, and everyone had their phones out. So it was just like a sea of
That's
phones, and I'm like, oh, that's so
that is
sad.
yeah. I'm not sure how Ben does it so much, how he puts up with it, but
There
you
must be
know,
tricks.
after the bride and groom said their I do's, we had the wedding party there and lined up, and I'm there and I'm trying to basically direct everybody, look at me, like, hey, get nice and centered, like smile on three, and I'm lining up the photo and I'm getting everything in focus, and then here comes like the aunts and the moms, and they're like this right in front of me, they're doing that, and I'm like this, like this is why I don't do this too
It's a
much, but
nightmare. No, I think yeah, I'm sure Ben.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting interview with Ben just to talk about the
There's so
pitfalls.
many phones. There's so many phones in all these
Uh,
photos. So like when I was in post production, I came home and I looked at it, I'm like phone, phone,
yeah,
phone. Like
there
it's
should be
really
like a
it's
program that just takes out phones and arms
yeah, 100%. That'd be great.
because it just seems like. And I saw another photo of someone sitting down at a concert, and you could you could watch the concert from everyone's phone, and I thought, and I get a lot of people. It's nice to snap a photo, let people know, or maybe do a little video, but some people have it going almost the entire show.
So that I can Photoshop out.
Okay, okay,
That I know how to. Yeah, that I can get rid of quick. But when it
good.
comes to a wedding, it's a little bit harder. So,
Yeah, especially with the lighting and like if it's
but
outdoors, and yeah, it's just
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's a weird thing, but this is cool. So what are all the different ways to get a hold of to see your stuff, to see what's going on, all the websites?
Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. At Twitter, we're at Flintfield_TX. On Instagram, we're at Flintfield TX. Keep up with what we got going on. You can follow me at Mark Champion TX, and of course, our website FlintfieldTX.com is up and running. You can go and check out what we've done, what we have coming up, how to get a hold of us, and stuff like that. So
Are you gonna be doing merch again?
I am. I am. My pinning is
Your face
this is
with like
probably the yeah.
a smile, like a little.
I'm actually working ninth innings in the beginning phase of coming back.
Okay, that's what I was hoping.
We're working with some designers right now um, to bring some stuff to life, and we were hoping to do it in April, but we're actually going to do it in May now. So
Okay,
if you're listening to this podcast, yes,
okay,
ninth inning is coming back here this summer, so be on the lookout. I haven't actually announced that yet, so this is the first place
nice.
that
Okay,
that's kind of getting talked about. But
nice.
Flint Field's gonna have some merch. We're gonna have some shirts and some caps here soon. Ninth inning's gonna have some product here soon, so
Rad. That's cool.
I'm
That's cool. I'll be
excited.
ready to
Yeah,
spend some money. I love your stuff. I was
thank
hoping.
you, man. I
I'm
appreciate
like,
you.
please,
Thank you, Kevin.
and I appreciate you, and I appreciate
Yeah,
all the hard work, and you hustle, and also too, you're inspirational. Like you did some walks around Houston recently. Like maybe seems recently, maybe it was a few
yeah,
months ago, but it was just
yeah,
like to see different light, and you kind of explained how it's important to just walk your city, walk around. If you're a
yeah,
photographer or photographer minded, yeah,
yeah. I wanted to take that same creativity that you put forward towards clients, and sort of do it for your own creative pleasure. Because
mhm,
a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, when I am shooting, it's for somebody else, and I don't want to forget that. Hey, like I still want to go out there and do it for my own, not
yeah,
you know not shoot photos for the sake of having to tag somebody. More so, just shoot it for the sake of creativity.
yeah,
I think as photographers, we lose that sensibility where we're only shooting for the sake of posting and tagging someone, and I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
I want my clients to have their photos and all that good stuff, and content's great, but at the same time, as a photographer, you have to remember that why you did it and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And so walks around downtown Houston at 7 a.m. 40-degree weather is what I like doing.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
that's
man.
cool. No, it's funny too. I think we all get too caught up in the wanting to post something
The
like,
rat
oh, this will look
race.
great on Instagram. It's just like that's just
Yeah,
bullshit. It's just so sad. Like
yeah.
it's
It's a lot of times, I get bugged out, and I'm like, I just don't feel like dealing with the rat race of Instagram. Like I love being a photographer and creating content, but ultimately, I want my product to live outside of social media.
yes.
That's why, Flint Field Tx, .com is a thing, and I want it to live on its own, and I have to depend on a certain social media app to
Yeah,
hold
to
all my to
mhm.
hold it all, because what was it last fall? IG went down for 4 or 5 hours, and everybody was freaking out,
Yeah.
and at that time I was already like in the boat, like, hey, like Instagram's not going to be around forever.
Mhm.
Where do I want my product to live? Ultimately, it's got to be on its own.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great mindset. Well, it was so great to catch up with you. I know you're going out of town pretty soon, so have a
yeah.
fun trip. That'll be
Thanks. We're
cool.
going
It's
to going to Disney World.
you're going to
Hey,
Disney World.
honestly, man, I have to give you props, Kevin. What you do for the barbecue community, not just in Texas, but all over. You shine a light that a lot of us in this space appreciate, and I can
Oh, thank
speak
you.
for now. I'm not can't speak for everybody, but I speak for myself when I say thank you to you. You take the time out of your day, and I know you're not getting paid for any of this. This is more so a creative pleasure for you to be involved, and I appreciate and I like what you're doing, and I'm always going to support. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It means a lot. I love this world, and I also know that there's a lot of people. There's a light shined on certain. There's a light being shined on certain people, but there's also a lot of people outside of that scope that are working hard and they're trying hard, and I want the world to exist beyond the pandemic, beyond everything else. And so I no, thank you. That means a lot. I'm just trying my best, and I'm trying to do things that that inspire me. And if people follow me on Instagram and see my story, it's usually like I'm trying to help people, but I'm also like posting random weird stuff because my brain's always
Yeah,
just like kind of like in a million spaces at once. But thank you. No, it's just, and also too, I get a chance to meet people like you and connect,
yeah.
and we connect on so many levels. And it's so funny too because you'll post something about like about Maisel or something that I know like half like 99% of our audience has zero interest in at all. And I'm like, wow, like there's certain things, and it's nice to connect with people that
I
have
love
like
I love
interest.
Mrs. Maisel.
Oh,
I'm a big I'm a big Maisel head over here. We ride for Maisel in this house for sure. So
it's so dense. Like every episode, like if anybody's listening to this or watching this, I've seen Maisel. It's there's a heavy Jewish influence because that's
yeah,
that world. But it'd be like watching something about Italians or something. But it's the same breadth of that. But it's so witty, and the cinematography is just freaking amazing. Like it's like some of those hands, and it's the way they
yeah.
follow characters and the sets and the
I think yeah. To tap on
costume.
what you said, I think. Oh man, I think that time period I'm big on.
Yeah, yeah, same.
I loved like Boardwalk Empire, and I loved just baseball from that time period. I'm a huge fan of, and the players
Yes.
from there. I mean, there's a photo of Duke Snyder right there at
Ah,
Ebbets Field. So like when it
I have a
comes to
Duke
the
Snyder card from
homage,
my mom. That was like
there you
one of my
go.
first cards. Yeah, she
So like seeing Maisel, and like just it's satire and it's comedy, but done in such a like classy way. And then also she's a woman in comedy, and she's got a story to tell. And to me, she's very like she's punk rock. She's going
Mhm.
against the grain.
Yeah,
She's saying screw it, like I'm gonna do it my own way, and I love it. And it's
and
it's
she's like
it's
Lenny
it's
Bruce. She is like her.
it's exactly so, and it's cool because a guy like Lenny Bruce was a fictional person from back then, and he was actually a real guy. So seeing Lenny Bruce next to someone like Midge Maisel is really cool because you're getting Lenny Bruce's story while you're getting Midge's, and I think
Yeah,
just the
it's
writing
just
is insane. Acting is incredible. There's always a message to take away from every episode. So I could talk about Maisel all day.
yeah.
Believe
I
me.
saw them. We saw like I took my mom to go see at the Paley Center in LA,
Okay.
and we saw the entire cast, and they spoke, and
Wow.
Patton Oswalt, he was the moderator. It was so freaking amazing. Like listening to the producers, and it was
Yeah.
just so interesting. and what's the guy's name that plays Monk? The guy that plays the dad.
Tony Shalhoub.
Delicious. He is just, he's a savant. Like the cast is, they're amazing, but it's just, it was such a cool, and it was so cool to like, everyone was like such a fan. Like it was fun to be somewhere where people, it was right before the pandemic started, and it was just so nice to be around people that were fanatical. Like they were crazy about that show. Like I love it, but they were like nuts. Like it was
I
cool.
relate. I relate to Tony, the dad, a lot. There's the episode I think last week, the week before, where her parents are living with her, and he's got a typewriter, and he's
Oh
in the
yeah, in
bathtub.
the bathtub.
And
Yes.
he goes, you know, I can't be creative unless I'm cozy. I'm like, me too. That's me. Like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
my office is always crazy, but I'm cozy in here. This is where I
Yeah. It's
create, and it's like
important. Yeah, space.
that's where I like exactly, you know. And I felt that when he said that, I'm like, yes, that's
Yeah,
me.
definitely. And I love like the Tupperware party. I love the visuals, like the
Oh yeah,
colors, and it's I'm nostalgic for that time. I'm it's nostalgic for my childhood. I actually just ordered on eBay Shrinky Dinks because I had like an unsealed, like a unopened pack of Shrinky Dinks. I don't know if you remember those.
okay, yeah, oh
It
yeah,
might be, yeah, but it's just because I wanted to just see what they look like again. I forgot someone was mentioning toasters or something, and what do you do in the
yeah.
toaster oven? And Shrinky Dinks has popped up, but
I
it's
remember that.
so, yeah, but it's just, yeah, that's cool, and it's, thank
Very cool,
you.
man.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Yeah, have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.
Later,
All right,
cool,
take it
bud.
easy.
Later.